the silent departure. The chamber stretched before them like a cathedral built for gods. Director Sarah Chen stood at the entrance of the Galactic Assembly Hall, her breath catching despite years of preparation for this moment. The ceiling arced hundreds of meters overhead, transparent to the cosmos beyond, where distant stars burned with ancient light. Thousands of beings filled the tiered seating that rose in concentric circles around the central platform. The air hummed with translation devices rendering countless languages into comprehensible sound. Sarah adjusted her jacket, dark blue with the emblem of the United Earth Coalition stitched over her heart. Behind her stood 5 others. Dr. Marcus Webb, the tall scientist whose work on quantum drives had pushed humanity to the stars. Captain Amara Okonkwo, military liaison, her posture radiating controlled strength. Chin Li, the cultural analyst who had studied every available record of alien civilizations. Dr. James Rodriguez, economist and trade specialist. And young Thomas Core, barely 25, the technical advisor whose brilliant mind had earned him a place on this historic delegation. They had traveled 8 months to reach this place. The Nexus Prime station orbited a neutron star at the galaxy's heart, positioned equidistant from the major civilizations that comprised the Galactic Assembly. Humanity had received the invitation 3 years ago, shortly after their colony ships had crossed into what the Assembly considered monitored space. The message had been formal, neither welcoming nor hostile. An invitation to present themselves. To be evaluated. To seek recognition as a sentient species worthy of protection under galactic law. A being approached them, gliding rather than walking. The Valorum were elegant creatures, their bodies composed of interlocking crystalline segments that refracted light into rainbow patterns. This one's designation translated as Harmonizer Vel III, assigned as their guide. Director Chin, the Valorum's voice resonated like wind chimes. The assembly awaits your presentation. You will proceed to the central platform when the resonance chime sounds. You will have 1 standard cycle to make your case. The Council of 7 will then deliberate and provide their judgment. We understand, Sarah replied, keeping her voice steady. Thank you, Harmonizer. The Valorum's crystalline head tilted, an expression that might have been curiosity or pity. I should inform you that few species receive recognition on their first appearance. Most require several presentations across many generations. The Council's standards are exacting. We're prepared for any outcome, Sarah said, though her heart hammered against her ribs. The Harmonizer drifted away. Sarah turned to her team. They stood in a small cluster, 6 humans among thousands of beings whose civilizations had flourished for millennia before humanity had even discovered fire. Remember, Sarah said quietly, we speak with dignity. We present our achievements honestly. We ask for nothing we haven't earned. Whatever happens, we represent every human being who ever looked at the stars and dreamed of reaching them. The resonance chime sounded, a deep note that vibrated through flesh and bone. The vast chamber fell silent. Thousands of eyes and organs that served as eyes turned toward the human delegation. Sarah led them forward. Their footsteps echoed on the polished floor, a material that seemed to be solid light. They crossed what felt like an impossible distance, finally reaching the central platform that rose from the floor like a stage. As they stepped onto it, light surrounded them, not blinding but present, making them visible to every being in that enormous space. Above them, on an elevated dais, sat the Council of 7. Each represented one of the founding civilizations of the Assembly. Sarah had studied them obsessively for 3 years, memorizing every detail available in the databases humanity had accessed. The Architect, a being of the Xenothi race, whose kind had built megastructures around stars when Earth's continents were still forming. It resembled a mantis crafted from silver metal, though whether that was its true form or merely a vessel remained unclear. The Eternal Mother, representative of the Korea, a species that lived for thousands of years and possessed genetic memories stretching back millions. She appeared almost human, disturbingly so, except for the eyes that held depths beyond human comprehension. The Flame Speaker, a Pyran whose body burned with contained stellar fire. Their civilization had mastered energy manipulation to degrees humanity could barely theorize. The Depths Walker, a massive being from a high-gravity world, whose species had conquered the crushing environments of gas giants and survived pressures that would atomize human tissue. The Whisper, representing a species that existed partially out of phase with normal matter, appearing as a shimmer in the air that hurt to look at directly. The Scholar Prime, a Tethian whose cranium was 3 times the size of their body, representing a species that had turned their entire civilization toward the pursuit of knowledge. And finally, the War Master, a Korthax warrior whose species had unified their sector through conquest before evolving beyond such primitive needs, or so they claimed. He was massive, scaled, with eyes that burned like coals. The architect spoke first, its voice translated into flat, emotionless speech. Humans of Earth, you have requested formal recognition before this assembly. You seek acknowledgement of your sovereignty, protection under galactic law, and access to the shared repositories of knowledge. State your case. Sarah stepped forward, her team flanking her in a line. She had rehearsed this speech 1,000 times, perfected every word, every pause. Now, standing before the collected power of galactic civilization, she spoke from her heart. Honored council, respected members of the assembly. We come before you as representatives of humanity, a species that has reached for the stars with determination and hope. We do not claim to be the oldest race or the most advanced or the most powerful. We acknowledge that we are young, barely 200 years since our industrial revolution, barely 50 years traveling between stars. She paused, meeting the eyes of each council member in turn. But we have achieved much in our short time. We have overcome wars that nearly destroyed us and chosen peace. We have looked at the divisions between our peoples and chosen unity. We have faced the possibility of extinction and chosen survival. We have stood on our homeworld and reached for distant suns, and we have succeeded. Dr. Webb stepped forward, activating a holographic display. Images appeared in the air above them. Earth, blue and beautiful. The first colony on Mars, domed cities glittering in rust-colored deserts. The orbital platforms around Venus. The mining operations in the asteroid belt. The colony ships, sleek vessels carrying thousands toward distant worlds. In 50 years, we have established permanent settlements on 12 worlds, Sarah continued. We have developed faster-than-light travel independently, through our own research and innovation. We have encountered 3 other spacefaring species and established peaceful relations with all of them. We have created art, science, philosophy that reflects our unique perspective in this vast universe. The images changed, showing human achievements. Medical advances that had extended lifespans and eliminated diseases. Fusion reactors providing clean, abundant energy. Artificial intelligence working alongside humans to solve complex problems. Children being born on worlds light years from Earth, the first generation of humans who would never walk on their species' homeworld. We come before you not as supplicants begging for acceptance, Sarah said, her voice growing stronger. We come as fellow travelers in this cosmos, seeking our place among you. We ask for recognition of our sovereignty over our settled worlds. We ask for protection under the laws that govern civilized species. We ask for access to knowledge, not to take without giving, but to learn and contribute our own discoveries in return. Captain Okonkwo spoke next, her military bearing evident. We understand the responsibilities that come with recognition. We are prepared to contribute to the common defense. We are prepared to honor treaties and respect boundaries. We are prepared to be good neighbors to all peaceful species. Chinli added, we have studied your histories, your cultures, your philosophies. We see the wisdom in the structures you have built over millennia. We wish to learn from you, even as we hope that our unique human perspective might offer something of value to the greater galactic community. Dr. Rodriguez presented economic data, showing humanity's growing industrial capacity, their trade potential, the resources they could offer. Thomas Core demonstrated innovations in quantum field manipulation that human scientists had recently achieved, drawing impressed murmurs from some sections of the assembly. Sarah brought the presentation to its conclusion. We are humanity. We are young, yes, but we are determined. We are imperfect, but we are striving always to be better. We have looked at the immensity of space and refused to be intimidated by it. We have seen the complexity of galactic civilization and refused to be discouraged. We ask only for the chance to prove ourselves worthy of standing among you as equals. Silence filled the chamber when she finished. Sarah and her team stood together, waiting. Minutes passed. The Council of Seven engaged in communication, though whether verbal or telepathic, Sarah couldn't tell. Finally, the War Master leaned forward. And then he laughed. It started as a low rumble, then grew into a booming sound that echoed through the chamber. His scaled face split in a grin that showed rows of teeth designed for tearing flesh. The laughter rolled out like thunder. The Eternal Mother joined him, her laugh musical but no less mocking. The flame speaker's body flared brighter as sounds of amusement crackled from its core. One by one, the council members expressed their amusement. Even the architect, who Sarah had believed incapable of emotion, made a clicking sound that the translator rendered as laughter. And then the assembly itself joined in. Thousands of beings, representing hundreds of species, filled the chamber with the sounds of their mirth. Some laughed in ways humans could understand. Others made sounds like grinding metal or shattering glass or howling winds. But all of it conveyed the same message: mockery. Sarah stood frozen. Beside her, Marcus clenched his fists. Amara's jaw tightened. Chin Li's face flushed with humiliation. James stared at the floor. Thomas looked like he might cry. The laughter went on. And on. Minutes that felt like hours. Sarah felt the weight of it crushing down on her, felt the shame burning through her chest. 8 billion humans back on Earth in the colonies, all waiting to hear how this moment had gone. All hoping for acceptance, for recognition, for a place in the greater universe. And the galaxy was laughing at them. Finally, mercifully, the laughter began to fade. The War Master wiped his eyes with a clawed hand. The Eternal Mother's smile was cruel and cold. The Architect's voice carried unmistakable condescension when it spoke. Humans, you have presented your case. The Council has reached its decision. Sarah forced herself to stand straight, to meet their gazes. Whatever came next, she would face it with dignity. You request recognition as equals, the War Master said, still chuckling. You, who have been in space for the time it takes a Korea child to learn to walk. You, who think 50 years of fumbling in the dark represents achievement worth celebrating. You, who believe that settling a dozen worlds makes you worthy of standing alongside civilizations that span thousands of systems. The Eternal Mother spoke, her voice gentle but dismissive. Child species, you are not ready. You lack the maturity, the wisdom, the experience. Return to your worlds. Grow. Learn. Perhaps in 10,000 years, you might develop into something worth acknowledging. You are denied, the Architect stated flatly. Recognition refused. Sovereignty not granted. Access to knowledge repositories forbidden. You may maintain your current settlements, but expansion beyond your current borders requires assembly approval, which will not be forthcoming. You are designated as a developing species under observation. This judgment is final. The War Master waved a dismissive hand. Go home, little humans. Play with your toys. Try not to destroy yourselves before you grow up. We will check on you in a few millennia to see if you've learned anything. More laughter rippled through the assembly. Not the roaring mirth of before, but chuckling, snickering, the sound of beings who had just witnessed something amusing and slightly pathetic. Sarah felt something break inside her. Not her spirit, but something else. Some last hope that the universe operated on fairness, on merit, on the content of one's achievements. She had believed, truly believed, that if they presented themselves well, if they showed what humanity had accomplished, they would be judged fairly. She had been wrong. For a long moment, she stood there, her team around her, the laughter washing over them like acid rain. Every instinct screamed at her to argue, to plead, to demand they reconsider. To explain that humanity deserved better than this. To make them understand. But looking at those ancient faces, those beings who had lived for thousands of years and ruled for millions, Sarah understood something fundamental. They would never listen. Not to arguments, not to pleading, not to evidence. They had made up their minds before the humans had even arrived. This entire presentation had been a formality, a ritual designed to put the young species in their place. They didn't see humans as potential equals. They saw them as children. As amusing primitives. As being so far beneath them that their very ambition was laughable. And nothing Sarah could say would change that. So she didn't speak. Sarah turned to her team. She met each of their eyes. Saw the shame there, the anger, the pain. She gave a single sharp nod. Then without a word she began to walk. Not running. Not fleeing. Walking with measured steps, her back straight, her head high. Her team fell in beside her. 6 humans crossing that vast floor, their footsteps echoing in a chamber that had fallen suddenly quiet. The laughter had stopped. Now there was only silence and the sound of humans walking away. They reached the exit. Sarah paused for just a moment at the threshold. She turned back, looked at the Council of 7 one final time. Looked at the thousands of assembled beings. Let them see her face. Let them see what was in her eyes. Not tears. Not defeat. Not submission. Something else. Something cold and hard and absolutely implacable. A promise. Then she turned away and walked through the door. It closed behind them with a sound like a tomb ceiling. In the corridor outside, away from the eyes of the assembly, Marcus finally spoke. Sarah, we have to. No, she said quietly. We don't. They dismissed us like we were nothing, Amara said, her voice shaking with controlled rage. Like everything we've achieved means nothing. I know. We could petition again, Chin Li suggested. Prepare a better case. Find allies among the member species. No, Sarah repeated. We're done here. She kept walking, her team following. Through corridors that seemed designed to make visitors feel small. Past aliens who stared at them with expressions ranging from pity to amusement to indifference. Back to their ship, the small vessel that had carried them across 8 months of space to reach this place. The airlock sealed behind them. The artificial gravity of human design felt like coming home. Sarah walked to the bridge and took her seat. Set course for Earth, she said. Maximum speed. Director, the pilot said carefully, we're scheduled to remain here for 3 days. There are protocols, diplomatic courtesies. Now, Sarah said. Her voice carried a weight that made arguments die unspoken. The ship detached from the station. Its engines flared, and it began the long acceleration that would carry it to the jump point. Through the viewport, Sarah watched the Nexus Prime station recede, that massive structure growing smaller, becoming just another point of light among billions. Amara sat beside her. What do we tell them? Earth is waiting for our report. 8 billion people expecting to hear that we've been accepted into the galactic community. Sarah was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was soft but carried a certainty that seemed to come from somewhere beyond herself. We tell them the truth. We tell them that the galaxy is not what we hoped. That the ancient civilizations look at us and see only primitives to be mocked. That there is no fairness out here, no justice, no recognition of merit or achievement. She paused. And we tell them that we're done asking for permission to exist. What does that mean? Thomas asked. Sarah turned to look at her team. It means we close our borders. Every ship, every station, every colony. No one comes in. No one goes out. We stop asking the assembly for recognition, for permission, for anything. Isolation. Marcus said. Sarah, that's not. It means we build, Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger. We take every resource, every mind, every scrap of innovation our species possesses, and we pour it into one purpose. Becoming something that can never be laughed at again. They have thousands of worlds, Chinley said. Millions of years of development. How can we possibly? Because we're human, Sarah said simply. Because when someone tells us we can't do something, when someone dismisses us, mocks us, treats us like we're nothing, we have 2 choices. We can accept their judgment and spend the next 10,000 years begging for scraps from their table. Or we can prove them wrong. She stood, walking to the viewport, placing her hand against the cold glass. They laughed at us today. Every single one of them. They thought it was funny that we dared to dream of equality. They found our ambition amusing. Her hand curled into a fist. One day they're going to remember this moment. They're going to remember the day they laughed at humanity. And they're going to realize it was the biggest mistake their ancient civilizations ever made. The ship reached the jump point. Space twisted, and they leaped forward, beginning the long journey home. Behind them, the Nexus Prime station continued its eternal orbit, its inhabitants already forgetting about the brief appearance of the young human species. But Sarah Chin did not forget. None of them did. They carried that laughter with them, that mockery, that dismissal. They carried it like a weight, like a wound, like fuel for a fire that would burn for generations. The ship jumped again, eating up the light years between the galactic core and the small, unremarkable yellow star where humanity had been born. In the months of travel, Sarah began composing her report. Not the diplomatic summary she had planned to deliver. Something else. Something that would change everything. When they finally entered Earth's solar system, when they finally saw that beautiful blue world hanging in space like a jewel, Sarah transmitted her report to every government, every organization, every news outlet on Earth and the colonies simultaneously. It was simple, direct, and it would reshape human civilization. We were rejected. We were mocked. We were told to wait 10,000 years and perhaps we might become worthy of notice. I am recommending immediate implementation of Protocol Ascension. Closed borders. Total commitment to technological and industrial advancement. Every resource, every mind, every dream focused on a single goal, becoming something the galaxy cannot ignore, cannot dismiss, cannot laugh at. This is not about revenge. This is about survival. This is about dignity. This is about proving that humanity's place among the stars will be taken, not given. The Council laughed at us today. Let them. They will not be laughing when we return. The response from Earth was swift and unanimous. Every nation, every faction, every group that had spent generations dreaming of humanity's place among the stars felt the same burning shame, the same cold rage, the same iron determination. The borders closed. The colonies went silent. Human space became a black box, mysterious and impenetrable. And inside that box, humanity got to work. Sarah Chin stood in the headquarters of the United Earth Coalition, looking out at the city lights of Geneva stretching below. Behind her, holographic displays showed the beginning of the greatest industrial mobilization in human history. Shipyards expanding. Factories being built. Research facilities coming online. Every human mind turned toward a single purpose. She thought about that moment in the assembly hall. The laughter. The mockery. The dismissal. And she smiled, cold and hard and absolutely certain. "Let them laugh," she whispered to the empty room. "They won't be laughing long." And in the silence of human space, cut off from the galaxy that had rejected them, humanity began its transformation. The countdown had begun. The reckoning. The first year passed in silence. The Galactic Assembly barely noticed. Young species were rejected regularly, and they always reacted the same way. Anger, shame, isolation. They would sulk for a generation or two, then return with humility, accepting whatever scraps the elder civilizations chose to offer. Was the pattern. It had always been the pattern. The Valorum harmonizer who had guided the human delegation filed a brief report. The humans had departed without requesting a follow-up audience. Standard behavior. The file was archived and forgotten. In human space, something unprecedented was happening. Every ship that approached human borders was met by automated defense platforms that politely but firmly turned them away. Trade missions found their offers declined. Scientific expeditions received no response to their hails. The 12 human worlds and their surrounding territories became a sealed zone, impermeable and silent. The Galactic Assembly took note when the first year became the second, then the third. It was unusual for a species to maintain isolation for so long. Most grew lonely or desperate for resources or simply curious about the wider galaxy. But the humans remained silent, and their borders remained closed. By the fifth year, concern began to replace curiosity. Long-range sensors detected unusual activity in human space. Massive construction projects. Energy signatures that didn't match known human technology from 5 years earlier. Ships moving constantly between their worlds but never crossing the border. The Scholar Prime brought the matter before the Council of Seven. The humans are engaging in significant industrial expansion. Our projections suggest their manufacturing capacity has increased by a factor of 10. The War Master dismissed this with a wave. Let them build their toys. When they realize isolation brings only stagnation, they will come crawling back. Young species always do. But they didn't. By the 10th year, human space had expanded to 30 systems. Not through conquest or negotiation, but through pure expansion into unclaimed space at the edges of their territory. The Assembly's laws were clear. Recognized species required permission for such expansion. Unrecognized species technically had no legal standing, creating a gray area no one had needed to address in millennia. "We should send a delegation," the Eternal Mother suggested. "Remind them of their place. Ensure they understand the boundaries." A diplomatic vessel was dispatched to the human border. It was met by a defense platform that transmitted a simple message: "Humanity thanks the Galactic Assembly for its interest. We are not accepting visitors at this time. Please respect our borders. Any vessel crossing into human space without explicit permission will be disabled and escorted out." The diplomatic vessel attempted to enter anyway, invoking Assembly authority. 3 human warships appeared within minutes. They were not the small, simple vessels from a decade ago. These were larger, more sophisticated, bristling with weapons that made the diplomatic vessel's captain reconsider his orders. He withdrew. The incident was reported to the council. For the first time, the War Master looked troubled. They dare threaten an assembly vessel? They didn't threaten, the architect corrected. They warned. There is a difference. By the 15th year, the whispers had become serious discussions. Human territory now encompassed 50 systems. Their population, based on energy usage patterns and colony signatures, had exceeded 20 billion. Their industrial output rivaled some of the mid-tier assembly civilizations. And they still refused all contact. Trade vessels reported being scanned by human ships at the borders. Not aggressively but thoroughly. As if the humans were studying every vessel that passed near their space, learning, analyzing, incorporating new knowledge into their growing civilization. "They're using us," Chinli would have smiled if she could see the reports. "Watching everything that passes by, reverse engineering what they observe, improving their own technology without asking permission or paying for access." The Korea, whose species lived for thousands of years, began to express concern. The Eternal Mother brought it to the council. In my lifetime I have seen species rise and fall. The humans are rising faster than any I have witnessed. This is not normal development. This is directed, focused, almost desperate advancement. There's still just one species, the War Master insisted. We are thousands. They have 50 systems. The assembly controls millions. There is no comparison. But his voice carried less certainty than before. By the 20th year, something changed in the galaxy. The first reports came from the outer sectors, so far from the core that the Council initially dismissed them. Settlements going silent. Mining operations disappearing. Entire moons stripped of resources overnight. The Devourers had returned. Every civilization in the galaxy knew the stories. Every 10,000 years, give or take a few centuries, they came from the void between galaxies. Not truly alive, not truly machines, something in between. They consumed. Planets, asteroids, space stations, ships. Anything with resources. They broke it down to raw materials and used it to replicate themselves, growing exponentially until they had harvested everything in their path. The last time they had come 8,000 years ago, it had taken the combined might of 100 civilizations to drive them back. Millions of ships. Billions of warriors. Weapons that cracked planets and ignited stars. The war had lasted 3 centuries and cost trillions of lives. Now they were back and the galaxy was not what it had been. Millennia of peace had made civilizations complacent. Defense fleets had been reduced. Weapon systems had been archived. The great alliances forged in the last war had faded into history. The first battles were disasters. The Xenothi lost 3 megastructures before they could organize a defense. The Pyran threw stellar fire at the Devourers and watched it be absorbed and converted into more enemy units. The Korthax, whose warrior tradition had never truly faded, mounted a fierce defense of their core worlds and were overwhelmed in weeks. The Council of Seven convened in emergency session. The chamber was no longer filled with confident, ancient beings. Fear had come to the galactic core. How many? The War Master demanded. The advanced swarms number in the hundreds of thousands, the Scholar Prime reported. And they're growing. Every world they consume gives them resources to build more. Our projections suggest they'll reach the core sectors within 5 years at current rates. We stopped them before, the flame speaker said, though its fire burned less brightly than usual. We can stop them again. Before we were united, the Eternal Mother said quietly. Before we had prepared for centuries after receiving early warnings. Before we had the full might of galactic civilization ready and willing to fight. Now, we've grown soft, divided, unprepared. The architect processed data, its mechanical mind running calculations. At current defensive capacity, we have a 37% chance of stopping the Devourers before they reach the core worlds. If they reach the core, the probability of galactic civilization's survival drops to 8%. Silence filled the chamber. These beings had ruled for millennia, had witnessed the rise and fall of countless species, had believed themselves eternal. Now they faced the real possibility of extinction. We need more ships, the War Master said. More warriors. We need to mobilize every civilization, every world. That will take time we don't have, the Scholar Prime countered. The Devourers are 3 years from the mid-sectors. 5 years from the core. We need a miracle. The Whisper, who rarely spoke, manifested more solidly than usual. Its voice was like wind through empty corridors. There is one civilization we have not contacted. One that has been building, expanding, focusing all its resources on advancement for 20 years. Everyone knew who the Whisper meant. No, the War Master said immediately. We will not beg the humans for help. They are children. What could they possibly offer? Ships, the Eternal Mother said slowly. They've been building for 2 decades. Building like their lives depended on it. Building like they had something to prove. They hate us, the architect stated. We laughed at them. Dismissed them. Told them to wait 10,000 years. Why would they help us now? Because they're human, the Whisper said. And humans are unpredictable. The debate raged for hours. Pride warred with desperation. Ancient prejudices fought against survival instinct. In the end, survival won. It always did. The message was crafted carefully, every word debated. It began with no apologies, no acknowledgement of past wrongs. Just facts. The Devourers had returned. The galaxy faced extinction. The Assembly requested humanity's assistance in the common defense. It was sent to the human borders on an encrypted priority channel. The response came within an hour. Not from an automated system. From a person. This is Admiral Marcus Webb of the United Earth Defense Force. We received your message. We are aware of the devourer threat. We have been monitoring the situation since the first attacks began 3 months ago. The council members looked at each other. The humans had been watching, analyzing, preparing. Marcus continued, his voice carrying none of the nervousness that Sarah Chen had shown 20 years ago. The Galactic Assembly requests our assistance. Before we respond, we have questions. First, what is the current status of humanity's petition for recognition? The architect responded. Your petition was denied 20 years ago. That decision stands. Understood. Second question. What is humanity's status regarding sovereignty over our claimed territories? You have no legal sovereignty, the Eternal Mother said. You are an unrecognized species. Your territories exist in a legal gray area. Third question. Will humanity be granted access to the knowledge repositories if we provide assistance? The War Master's scales bristled. That is not. Answer the question, the whisper interrupted. Our survival may depend on their cooperation. There was a pause. Then the architect spoke. Access to knowledge repositories is restricted to recognized civilizations. The Assembly's policies have not changed. Another pause. Then Marcus spoke again, and his voice carried something the Council had not heard from a human before. Absolute confidence. Thank you for clarifying the Assembly's position. Humanity will provide assistance against the devourers. Relief flooded the chamber. The Eternal Mother leaned forward. What are your terms? We have no terms, Marcus said simply. We will fight the devourers because they threaten all sentient life, including ours. We will fight them because it is the right thing to do. We will fight them because humanity does not abandon others to extinction, even those who have wronged us. The council members looked at each other in confusion. No demands? No negotiations? No leveraging this moment for recognition? However, Marcus continued, and now there was steel in his voice, understand this clearly. We are not fighting for the Assembly. We are not fighting for recognition or rewards or gratitude. We fight because the devourers are a threat to all life. When this is over, when the devourers are driven back, the Assembly will have decisions to make. But those are future concerns. Right now there is a war to win. When can your forces arrive? The War Master asked. Every day counts. We need ships at the following coordinates. Admiral Chen will be in contact with tactical details, Marcus interrupted. Expect our first battle groups within 72 hours. Web out. The transmission ended. Admiral Chen, the Eternal Mother said. Is that? Sarah Chen, the Scholar Prime confirmed, pulling up records. She was the director of the delegation we rejected 20 years ago. She now commands humanity's military forces. The War Master made a sound that might have been respect. She came back. They all did, the whisper said. But not as we expected. 72 hours later, human ships began arriving at the defensive coordinates the Assembly had established. The first battle group consisted of 100 vessels. They were not the small, simple ships the Council remembered. These were warships, purpose-built, carrying weapons that made Assembly observers' sensor equipment register alarm. Then the second battle group arrived. Another 100 ships. Then the third. And fourth. And fifth. How many ships do they have? The War Master demanded. The Scholar Prime was frantically analyzing the data. Current count, 800 vessels. All military grade. All equipped with weapon systems we don't fully recognize. Their technological advancement over 20 years it should be impossible. Nothing is impossible when an entire species dedicates itself to a single purpose, the Eternal Mother said quietly. The human fleet took up positions along the defensive line. Their ships spread out with practiced precision, creating overlapping fields of fire, establishing communication networks, coordinating with Assembly forces who had been fighting for months. Then Sarah Chen's face appeared on the Council's secure channel. She was older now, her hair fully white, lines etched deep around her eyes. But those eyes burned with the same intensity they had 20 years ago. Council of 7, she said. No pleasantries. No deference. Simply acknowledgement. Admiral Chen reporting. The United Earth Defense Force is in position and ready for combat. Transmitting tactical analysis and recommended strategic modifications to your current defensive posture. Data flooded the Assembly's systems. Human analysts had spent months studying the Devourer's tactics, identifying patterns, developing countermeasures. Their recommendations were detailed, sophisticated, and brutally effective. You've been studying them, the architect said. How long? Since they first appeared, Sarah replied. We detected the initial attacks at the same time you did. We've been preparing ever since. You knew we would call for help, the Eternal Mother said. Sarah's expression didn't change. We knew you would need help. Whether you would ask for it was irrelevant. The Devourers are everyone's problem. The first major engagement came 3 days later. A Devourer swarm, 50,000 strong, descended on a Korea colony world. The assembly fleet, reinforced by human ships, met them in high orbit. The battle was fierce. The Devourers came in waves, absorbing damage, adapting to weapons, pressing forward with mechanical inevitability. Assembly ships fought valiantly, but the casualty rate was horrific. Then the human ships did something unexpected. They stopped firing conventional weapons and activated something new. Pulses of energy erupted from their hulls, washing over the Devourer swarm. For a moment nothing happened. Then the Devourers began to falter. Their formations broke. Their replication processes stuttered and failed. What is that? The War Master demanded. Quantum disruption field, Sarah replied calmly from her flagship. We theorized that the Devourers use quantum entanglement for their distributed intelligence. Disrupt the entanglement and they lose cohesion. They devolve from a coordinated swarm into individual units. Individual units that could be destroyed by conventional weapons. The battle turned. The assembly fleet pressed the advantage. Within hours, the Devourer swarm was broken, scattered, eliminated. It was the first clear victory against the Devourers in months. News of the battle spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The humans had turned the tide. The humans had found a weakness. The humans were winning. More human battle groups arrived. 1,000 ships. 2,000. They spread along the defensive line, reinforcing positions, driving back Devourer incursions, reclaiming territory that had been lost. And they shared their quantum disruption technology freely with assembly forces. No demands for payment. No negotiations for knowledge access. They simply provided the technical specifications and helped other civilizations implement it on their own ships. The War Master stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching human and Korthax vessels fight side by side against a Devourer swarm. His tactical officer was a young warrior, barely 3 centuries old. Why do they fight so hard? The young Korthax asked. The assembly rejected them. Mocked them. They owe us nothing. The War Master watched a human destroyer sacrifice itself to protect a damaged Korthax cruiser, giving the larger ship time to retreat to safety. Because, he said slowly, they are not fighting for us. They are fighting for a principle. For the idea that all sentient life has value. For the belief that when extinction threatens, past grievances become irrelevant. He paused, something shifting in his ancient eyes. They are teaching us what it means to be civilized. The war continued for 2 years. The Devourers were relentless, but so was the combined fleet. Humanity poured resources into the conflict, their industrial capacity producing ships faster than they could be destroyed. Other civilizations, shamed by human dedication, increased their own efforts. Slowly, impossibly, the tide turned. The Devourers were pushed back, sector by sector. Their swarms were broken, scattered, destroyed. The exponential growth that made them so dangerous was countered by quantum disruption fields that severed their collective intelligence. The final battle took place at the Galactic Rim, where the Devourers had first entered known space. Every remaining Devourer unit was cornered, surrounded by a fleet numbering in the hundreds of thousands. Human ships formed the spearhead, their quantum disruptors blazing. When the last Devourer unit was destroyed, when silence fell across the battlefield, the galaxy took its first breath free of existential threat in 2 years. The celebration was muted. Too many had died. Too many worlds had been lost. But civilization had survived, and everyone knew who had made that survival possible. The Council of Seven convened again, this time inviting Sarah Chin to appear before them. She arrived in a small shuttle, alone except for a single aide. She wore her admiral's uniform, dark blue with silver stars, the emblem of United Earth on her shoulder. The chamber was not full this time. Just the council and a few observers. Sarah stood in the same circle of light where she had stood 22 years ago. The architect spoke first. Admiral Chin. The Galactic Assembly wishes to express its gratitude for humanity's assistance in the war against the Devourers. Your species' contribution was essential. Sarah nodded but said nothing. The Eternal Mother continued. We acknowledge that our treatment of humanity 22 years ago was inappropriate. We failed to see your potential. We allowed prejudice to cloud our judgment. You laughed at us, Sarah said quietly. Every being in this chamber. You laughed at us when we asked to be treated as equals. We did, the War Master said. And we were wrong. Sarah looked at each council member in turn. These ancient beings who had ruled for millennia, who had dismissed humanity as children, who now looked at her with something approaching respect. We fought alongside you, Sarah said. We bled with you. We saved civilizations that wanted nothing to do with us. We shared our technology freely. We did this not because we wanted your approval, but because it was right. She paused, her voice hardening. But do not mistake our principles for weakness. Do not think that because we helped you, we have forgiven. Do not imagine that humanity will ever forget standing in this chamber while you mocked us. The council was silent. However, Sarah continued, we also will not be defined by that moment. Humanity has grown beyond the need for your recognition. We have built a civilization we are proud of. We have achieved things you said were impossible. We have earned our place among the stars not by asking permission, but by taking it. The architect processed this. Then what would humanity ask of this council? Sarah smiled, cold and hard. Nothing. We ask for nothing. Keep your recognition. Keep your knowledge repositories. Keep your laws and your territories and your ancient traditions. Humanity will continue as we have been, building our own path, making our own discoveries, creating our own destiny. But, the Eternal Mother began. But, Sarah interrupted, if the Assembly wishes to establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity, as equals, as peers, as fellow civilizations working together toward common goals, we would be open to discussions. Not as supplicants seeking approval. As partners negotiating mutually beneficial arrangements. The War Master leaned forward. You would join the Assembly? No, Sarah said firmly. We would work with the Assembly. There's a difference. Humanity will not bow to the Council of Seven. We will not accept the judgment of beings who think age alone grants wisdom. But we will cooperate with civilizations that share our values. We will defend those who cannot defend themselves. We will contribute to the greater good of all sentient life. She looked up at them, these ancient rulers of the galaxy, and her next words carried absolute certainty. The galaxy is changing. The old order, where a few elder civilizations dictate terms to everyone else, is ending. Humanity is not alone in wanting something better. We will be the catalyst for that change, whether the Council approves or not. The whisper manifested more solidly than usual. You would remake galactic civilization? We would give every species the chance to stand as equals, Sarah replied. To be judged by their actions, not their age. To contribute based on their merit, not their pedigree. The Assembly can adapt to this new reality, or it can fade into irrelevance. The choice is yours. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the Scholar Prime, who had been silent until now, made a sound that might have been laughter. She's right. The galaxy has changed. We can either change with it or be left behind. The architect's mechanical mind processed endless variables. Finally it spoke. We will agree to formal diplomatic relations. As equals. The Assembly will recognize human sovereignty over all territories they currently claim. We will establish embassies, trade agreements, cultural exchanges. All the benefits previously restricted to recognized civilizations. And the knowledge repositories? Sarah asked. The council members looked at each other. The War Master spoke. Limited access. Initially. As we build trust, access can expand. That is the best we can offer without formal Assembly membership. Sarah considered this. It was more than they had asked for 22 years ago. It was everything humanity had wanted back then. But now, standing here with 2 years of war behind her, with the weight of human achievement on her shoulders, it felt almost insignificant. We accept, she said. Under the condition that any species that meets basic criteria of sapience and technological capacity will be given the same consideration. No more arbitrary rejections. No more laughter at the expense of younger civilizations. That would change everything, the Eternal Mother said. Yes, Sarah agreed. It would. The council deliberated silently. Then one by one they agreed. The galaxy would change. Had to change. Humanity had proven that age alone did not grant superiority. That determination could overcome prejudice. That a species dismissed as children could save civilizations that called themselves eternal. Sarah Chin bowed slightly, a gesture of respect between equals. Then we have an accord. I'll inform my government. We'll begin diplomatic proceedings immediately. She turned to leave, then paused. Looked back at the council one final time. 22 years ago, I stood here and asked you to see us as we were. You refused. You laughed. You sent us away. A small smile crossed her face. Thank you. For what? The War Master asked, genuinely confused. For making us prove ourselves. For forcing us to become something greater than we might have been if you'd simply accepted us. You gave us a purpose, a drive, a fire that burned away everything weak or complacent in human civilization. Her smile turned cold. You made us strong. And now, the galaxy will never underestimate humanity again. She walked out of the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the silence. The golden doors closed behind her. The council sat in their ancient seats, rulers of a galaxy that was no longer quite what it had been. The War Master spoke first, his voice thoughtful. We should have accepted them 22 years ago. Perhaps, the Eternal Mother said. Or perhaps everything happened exactly as it needed to. Perhaps humanity needed to be forged in isolation, tempered by rejection, shaped by determination. And perhaps we needed to be reminded, the whisper added, that wisdom does not come only with age. That every species, no matter how young, has something to teach us. The Scholar Prime pulled up data, analyzing humanity's trajectory. They've changed the galaxy in 22 years. Imagine what they'll do in the next century. The next millennium. The architect computed probabilities. There is a 93% chance that within 500 years, humanity will be one of the dominant civilizations in the galaxy. And they'll remember how we treated them, the Eternal Mother said softly. Yes, the War Master agreed. They will never forget. But they also proved they will not let the past poison the future. They saved us despite our wrongs. That is worth remembering too. In the months that followed, humanity opened its borders. Diplomats arrived on human worlds and found thriving civilizations that had achieved in 22 years what took most species centuries. Trade began, cautiously at first, then flourishing. Cultural exchanges revealed that humans had developed arts and philosophies uniquely their own, shaped by isolation and determination. And slowly, carefully, other young species began looking to humanity as an example. If one dismissed civilization could rise so far, so fast, perhaps they could too. Perhaps the old order wasn't as immutable as it seemed. Sarah Chin retired from military service 3 years after the war ended. She was 70 years old, tired, ready to rest. She returned to Earth, to a small house overlooking Lake Geneva, where this had all begun. On her final night as a public figure, a reporter asked her one question. Admiral, if you could go back 22 years to that moment in the assembly hall, would you change anything? Sarah thought about that moment. The laughter. The mockery. The pain. She thought about what humanity had become in response to it. No, she said finally. I wouldn't change a thing. Sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in the worst moments. They didn't believe in us, so we believed in ourselves. They laughed at us, so we worked until they couldn't laugh anymore. They tried to break us. We became unbreakable. She looked up at the stars, at the vast galaxy humanity had claimed its place in. Every human who looks at those stars now knows something important. Our worth isn't determined by others' opinions. Our place isn't granted by ancient councils. Our future isn't limited by anyone's laughter. She smiled, and in that smile was everything humanity had become. We walked away in silence 22 years ago. And we came back speaking a language the whole galaxy had to learn to understand. The language of earned respect. The stars burned above, eternal and indifferent. But among them now, humanity's lights burned bright, a testament to what could be achieved when dismissal became determination, when mockery became motivation, when laughter became the last sound made by those who underestimated the will to prove them wrong. The council had laughed. Humanity had answered. And the galaxy would never be the same.